So,
Wow. Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from here, actually.
Interesting.
So, speaking of here we are. Welcome to the Aperture PhotoBook Club. We are so pleased to be tuning in, not from my living room, but because Arnie makes some people sneeze, today's photo book club is, it's okay, we're not, today's photo book club is here in our Aperture offices. So we're moving to a new home on the Upper West Side in 2025, but it's nice to be gathered here for a last Aperture Photo Book Club hurrah on 28th Street. So if you are tuning in, we love it when you put in the chat where you're tuning in from, even though I can't see that, if that's tuning. Sometimes I can see where people are tuning in from, and it's always great because they're coming in from all over the world. But you can also not only tune in with where you're coming from, but tell us if you have any questions. If you put those in the chat, our producers will help me figure out what those questions are. Then I'll ask our distinguished guests. I also always want to thank FotoFocus. This is an amazing organization based in Cincinnati. They support the Photo Book Club, and we're really grateful for that partnership. And with that, I think we will dive into the Photo Book Club itself. So I'm very pleased to be with Rush Jackson, who designed this book. This is his third publication with Aperture, and we'll get into that history in a minute, but welcome, Rush.
Thank you.
We have Arielle Bobb-Willis, who is sharing with us her insight on her first book, which we were just talking about, is a really big deal. So thrilled to have you here. And finally, Trana. The reason I said that is because I wanted to pronounce Hannah's name correctly. So then I said, Trana Traore.
Yeah,
Hannah Traore.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hannah Traore. Hannah, we're so happy you're here. And it's funny, I've known you for so long, and it was only tonight that I actually asked you if I was pronouncing your name correctly. So let's begin with a little flip through of the photo book club, of the book, Keep the Kid Alive. And we'll ask Arielle to kind of share her thoughts as you're looking it through the pages. So take it away.
Photography is how I keep my inner child happy and healthy. I remember the first roll of film I ever shot. I was 14 years old, secluded in my room, shy, depressed, and desperately trying to get to know myself. When I got the film back, I realized that the dull room became this warm space of oranges and reds and yellows, and the film meshed the colors together and had a hint of green in the shadows, and it was my aha moment. I realized through photography, I can make my environment whatever I wanted it to be. When I first started shooting, it was from a place of pure curiosity, love, and attention. That feeling I have fought to keep alive over the years. I never want to lose the simple love I have for photography. It's uninhibited and spontaneous. I fall in love with so much every day. I fall in love with the shadows outside my apartment at 6 p.m., the texture of old wooden fences, or even the fact that the color green exists. Every day is a good day because I get to find more things to love. And Keep the Kid Alive is about creating with no need for perfection, falling in love with the everyday, and creating with the purest love and attention. It's an accumulation of all the photos that would make 14-year-old Arielle in that dull, gray room very proud.
That was probably my favorite flip through I've ever heard. So thank you. It was very vulnerable. I loved creating with no need for perfection. Feels like a good words to live by. Falling in love with the everyday. I love it. But I also think talking a little bit about being proud of yourself, of your work. And Hannah, you mentioned a little bit about other people expressing their pride in you and how that has been conveyed in your life. Do you want to kick us off and talk a little about that?
Ooh.
We had a good conversation. We really did, yeah.
So and actually, maybe we should say what the context of that conversation is.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about just kind of how much pride you have to have in yourself to do something like opening a gallery or be a photographer or be a designer and kind of go out on your own, really having confidence in yourself. And that's kind of the question that I get most often when people find out that I opened a gallery so young. And it wasn't until people started asking me that question that I started thinking about the answer, honestly, because you just kind of go through life and don't really think too introspectively sometimes. So I talked to my parents about it, and I remember my mom had said that when I was growing up, she used to tell me or ask me, are you proud of yourself? Instead of saying, I'm proud of you. Something that I would never think of, something I don't even remember. But kind of that intentionality is so important, and it obviously did instill some kind of confidence in me and my work.
Yeah, which is funny because I don't know if I said this. I interviewed Hannah for the book, and we had an hour conversation, 30 minutes,
so nice.
like just on the phone. But now that you said that, I don't know if I said this on the call, but my dad would always, like before I left to go hang out with my friends or do something, he'd be like, "Oh, you know who you are." And I'm like,
tell me that. That's so beautiful.
I'm like, oh, okay. And I guess
I bet you made a lot of good decisions knowing that.
so now I'm like, oh, things are kind of like the things that our parents say to us as like when we're young, we're kind of like, okay, yeah, like it's just something that they say, but it does.
It sticks.
It sticks, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how do you feel holding your first book in your hands?
Ooh, I feel really proud. I feel really grateful. It's intense. It's crazy. I was thinking about that earlier, about the book and how many photos I've taken. I've taken a lot of photos.
A lot of great ones, even. I mean, I've taken a lot of photos, but nobody wants to make a book of my work.
I remember you guys were like, oh, or Brendan was like, can you send us like 300 photos? I'm like, do I have 300 photos? And I had like I had a lot of photos for this book.
There were so many that also we just edited down throughout the process.
Yeah, we had to edit
also.
down. So it kind of just like, I was like, wow, I've actually put a lot of work into, in your 20s, I feel like you're just like constantly going and you're like, oh, I have to do this and that and this and that. And it's just wonderful to like hold my, like 10 years of my hard work like in my hands, and other people can as well. And they can have it in their homes. And yeah, it's incredible. It's really incredible. Yeah.
Well, I'm proud. I'm proud of actually all three of you who at very young ages did amazing things. Maybe you'll tell us a little bit more about your gallery and sort of what made you decide to start it and how the two of you met one another.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I decided to open a gallery for a lot of different reasons, but mostly because I felt like there was a beautiful, booming, obviously, art world in New York, but there was some things that I saw that were missing, and I felt like instead of complaining about that, I could actually kind of try to fill that hole a little bit. And mostly it was creating a space for people like me, honestly, and that means community, that means the artists, that means the collectors, that means people walking down the street who have never been in a gallery before. And so originally I was saying that, I work with artists from underrepresented groups, but I've kind of steered away from that because it almost feels like I don't even feel like I need to say that anymore, because really at the core of it is that I represent artists with extraordinary work. And actually the whole point is that I don't want their identity to be part of it, because so many artists of color, so many queer artists, et cetera, are tokenized so often. And I felt like because I am in many ways an other, I could see them for really who they were and for their work. And so almost 3 years in, I feel like I don't even really have to say that anymore. The work kind of speaks for itself. But I was introduced to Arielle's work through my mentor, Isolde Brillmeyer. I was working with her, and I was immediately so excited.
Will you say who she is, just for those people who are tuning in who don't know?
Yeah, for sure. So Isolde Brillmeyer is, she just launched a company called Vogue. When I was working with her, she was an independent curator. She's a curator at large at ICP. She was a curator at large at the Tang Museum, at Skidmore College, where I went. She's just an incredible woman, incredible mentor to so many. Super supportive, like does what she says she's going to do, amazing. So
I just thought it would be nice to.
No, for sure.
No,
Thank you.
If you don't know who she is, you're lucky if you do.
Yeah, totally. And she's introduced me to actually so many artists that I've worked with, which is so nice, including Arielle. And when I saw your work, I was just, it's funny because I was just in Miami for Basel, and my friend was like, I've realized you like really playful work. She used the word playful, and I was like, that is so true, and I never put it that way. But not only is your work playful, I mean, we're talking about these like over 300 images that you were able to send, but the thing about those 300 images, the thing about the book is that it's not just a collection of all your work, it's a collection that actually has a very specific visual language that is only yours. And I feel like, especially coming from an art fair, there's so much sameness, not only in the art world, but in general. And it's so, that's the piece that was in the show.
Yeah. Should you show this one?
Yeah.
It's 112.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so hard to find.
In which show?
Your
My
first show.
first ever show.
In which show?
About color. It was called Hues, and the whole point is kind of what I was talking about. It was artists of color who work with color in interesting ways, and the whole point was that so many artists of color are forced to talk about their identity in their work, and if they want to, that's amazing, but they shouldn't be forced to because their white counterparts aren't forced to or expected to. And so, of course, I immediately thought of Arielle because, again, your use of color, your use of abstraction, it's so smart and it's so you. You can always tell an Arielle Bobb-Willis.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm also so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your first show, and it was.
So how did you meet Isolde, just out of curiosity?
I think it was like via email, I think, or something like that with ICP. I think it was like 2017 or something, 2016, 2017.
Wow.
And it was when ICP was on the Bowery. Do you remember? Didn't they have their...
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah,
right?
for sure.
And they were doing these like projections at night of just artists in New York or whatever. And she asked me if I could like show my work like in those projections. And that was like one of my first like just introductions to the New York art world. But growing up here, I used to just like have like just like a couple of printouts of my pictures like in high school and just go to galleries in the Lower East Side and be like, hi.
How'd
and
that
they're like,
turn
I don't
out?
know if this is how, this is not how you're supposed to do it. And I was like, how do you do it? Like, how do you, like, what am I, anyway. But yeah, I just kept putting the work out there, and I met Isolde, and yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. So, I mean, you all are so amazingly accomplished, and as was mentioned, this is Rush's third book with Aperture. The first being the new Black Vanguard, which Rush has revealed to me that he finished his senior year of college.
Whoa.
Right.
What?
Yeah,
Whoa.
that is true.
Okay.
And then on Shaikeeth's book, Note Towards Becoming a Spill. And so it's quite a distinguished lineage of projects. So tell us a little bit about how you approached the book, how you met, and really I love these kind of distinct characters of each of these books. So what was it that you had in mind as you approached this?
So yeah,
We met here in Aperture's offices, right? No, yes?
I think so, unless we met at some new Black Vanguard event or something.
Maybe.
Because Arielle was
Could've been
in the new
earlier.
Black
Really?
Vanguard that Antoine Sargent.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we likely
here.
met here. Yeah.
Here.
It was an exciting process. I'm really excited by Arielle's work. I find it really playful and also really explorative and timely. And like daring in a lot of ways. And yeah, I think I really identified with Arielle's practice, and I focus my design studio, my output mostly on publication design. And I tend to work with people within my community. I've had kind of the privilege of having that kind of lineage of work. Like for example, like Shai Keith from Notes Towards Becoming a Spill is a friend from Pennsylvania. And yeah, I think I got really excited by also just continuing the new Black Vanguard lineage and getting to know you closer as well.
For sure.
I think I really got excited by our conversations like while working on the book also.
But also when we're
Especially-
not working, like when we were just downstairs from Aperture office, like we would just have chats and like walk to the train.
Yeah,
which
very
was nice.
casually,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is fun.
And I'm a super casual person and really respond to that energy.
Yeah. And also in one of our, I was excited to work with you as well because of obviously the new Black Vanguard, and I saw what you did and how much love you put into that. But also on one of our Zoom meetings when I was in LA and you were here in New York, I was wearing one of your designs and I didn't even know. Like one of my favorite shirts is the Studio Museums. It's like where Black art lives. It's brown with like yellow lettering. Have you seen? And you were like, oh, I like designed that. And I was like, what? Oh, okay. I was like, oh, okay, great. We're
It's okay, we're not on
here.
broadcast television.
Totally.
You can curse, it's fine.
Oh, I can curse?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. Totally fine. But let's talk a little bit about what, you made a lot of really fantastic design decisions. Tell us about a few of them, or tell us, why don't each of you pick sort of a favorite piece of the book that you want to talk about?
There's a lot that I...
There are a lot, yeah.
Well...
We'll start with you, Arielle. That seems fair.
Well, you could, I don't know.
Oh yeah, after you.
The cover means a lot to me. We went through a couple of covers, ones with like a face showing or whatever, but this, I guess what I learned throughout the process is that I look at these photos in a very different lens than like everyone else. Like I see the day and how I met, this is Daquan Jeremy, I met them at Buffalo Exchange where I've bought this bag, and I was like, hey, I really like your hair and your beard, the same color, would you want to shoot? Yeah, let's shoot. And just the whole process, and this was the last shot of the day and the sun was going out, and I was like, can I put Vaseline on your face and just stick these popsicle sticks on your face real quick, just let me, and he was like, yeah, let's do it, So
it's just Vaseline.
Yeah, it was Vaseline, yeah.
Helpful to our readers at home who may want to put popsicle sticks on their face.
On their face if you need, and it's easy to, it's not,
Okay, yeah, right, Vaseline.
So yeah, it was just a moment of like someone accepting and we shot for a very long time, and it was just a very true, someone accepting me and like my ideas, and everyone in this book I'm grateful for.
And maybe actually there are a couple of interesting design qualities to it. Would you talk a little bit about sort of how you would physically describe what this kind of cover is, the spine,
Sure.
that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's so it's like a printed cloth booklet. There's like a letterpressed sort of glitter kind of inked screen printed text throughout the cover.
I love glitter.
Image printed on the front. End papers, when you open up the book, feel really colorful. I think we were just really trying to, I think my largest goal was trying to speak to your visual language and the world that your body of work is kind of sitting in.
But you didn't want the design to overpower my work, like the
Yeah.
photos. That's what we discussed a lot, because
Right.
I was like, ideas. I was like, we could do this and that, and you were just kind of like more, hey, this is what we can do so that the work is really like shines through.
Right, because it's actually quite, the plate sections are quite traditional. In other words, they really let you dive into the work. There's not a lot of full bleed or any full bleeds. They really do respect the images a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I think we really tried to land on this balance of like a playfulness and like a curiosity, but also like a formalness to also present the work in. And I think that comes across in these plate layouts, which feel very conventional. But then also if you just like tip the book on its side to see the pages or something, you'll see like the head and tail bands are like a very specific intentional color. End papers are kind of an intentional color. There's all this kind of color play happening throughout. The painted pages, also the reflective.
And then this.
Yeah, and then the interior zine, which is a kind of favorite treatment I love to fall into.
And why is that? I think I know, but I'll let you say.
Yeah, I kind of came from a zine making space before getting into like larger publications. So yeah, it felt like a natural.
When that idea was presented to me as executive director, I was like, that's never gonna work. No way. And then I held it in my hand. I was like, oh, well, chalk that up in the I was wrong category. But it's really great. And then actually, let's spend a minute talking about the title too. Like
Title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the actual title came to me in an Uber in the Lower East Side. I keep saying Lower East Side. I'm like, Lower East Side.
Because Hannah's gallery
is in the Lower East Side. So I'm like,
yeah.
But I was in an Uber, and I'm in a lot of Ubers, just going places and everything. And I'm always like taking pictures, like, oh, I'll shoot there, I'll shoot there, I'll shoot there. And this particular day, there was graffiti on this wall that said, keep the kid alive. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And I kind of just it kept coming up in my photos or just when I'm scrolling on my phone. And I feel like it definitely resonated with, I wouldn't say like one photo is like, that's keeping your inner child alive. It was more of, it basically just summarizes what photography has taught me over the years, is to, keep that inner child alive, but also, in other words, keep that curiosity alive, keep the confidence alive, keep the egolessness alive, and keep the, that, like I said in the beginning, the pure love that I have for taking pictures alive. So that's what it means to me. And that's what my work, every photo you see is just a girl, a woman. I was a girl and then now I'm a woman, but over the years, just kind of setting aside time to do something that, just promotes self-love, and just setting aside that time to be creative and not think of yesterday, tomorrow, or whatever, and just be myself. And so, I think that's what all my photos represent, really. Yeah.
Oh, here's a full bleed. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there's three full bleeds.
And how did you choose that? How did you, either one of you?
Well, I didn't want, something to be cut off like in the middle.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty simple.
I think that was kind of my largest consideration, just
Like
from a functional standpoint.
Yeah. Which photos can we have that are full bleed and I love a full bleed, I really do. Because were we saying something about magazines and how it could be seen fashion-y or something like that?
Yeah, I think there were conversations
Like,
around like an editorial quality and how much we wanted to maybe lean into that.
Yeah, or not, because I feel like my work
Right.
is fashionable, but it's not fully fashion, I would say, So we got three. We got three editorial-esque kind of full bleeds.
And, maybe what's your take on the fashion, non-fashion, or the line in this, from your perspective, from the square in the art world, but also with an eye clearly to fashion too?
Well, thank you. I think that, obviously art and fashion are so connected always, but, someone like Arielle uses fashion in a really interesting way, actually, because you use it as a prop almost, in the same way that you almost use the human body as a prop.
Yeah.
So it's not only like visually interesting because like you like the shirt or you like the pants, but again, it almost feels more like a sculpture. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like using art for fashion and fashion for art all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bag doesn't have to be a bag, it can be a hat.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's fun. A skirt doesn't have to be a skirt, it could be a shirt. I love to like cut and rip into things, but I also do love working in fashion and having a piece come to me fully complete. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I love to create on the spot as well. Mm-hmm. I respect the fashion, but at the same time, I love to create fashion as well.
And do you have a favorite design piece, just to return to that, because I feel like we didn't let you, Hannah, answer that. Well,
I really love the horizontal pieces that are not full bleed, but go beyond the spine.
Oh, like this one?
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And like this.
I think that's so simple and beautiful and.
Oh, there's a good one.
What
page is that one?
Pacing to it.
58 too.
58.
Yeah.
That's my favorite design element.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course, the silver pages
Yeah.
as well. Love that.
I like
Yeah.
that they shimmer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think those pages give a really nice pacing to the book, almost like
Exactly.
a slower kind of quality when you pass through them.
A pause,
Yeah,
maybe.
right, a pause.
Yeah. I like how much empty space there is altogether in the book.
Yeah, totally.
And it is, you're right, it is, the way that you laid it out is so playful. I think it works perfectly with Arielle's work.
I think so too. Yeah. And also just to speak further about fashion and photography, I feel like your work can kind of traverse through both of those. Just also through how you're able to build, like there's a world building sort of quality in your work. And that is really conducive to maybe both of those spaces.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That is true.
I also think a lot about how much we talked about painters throughout the process.
Yeah.
I think that was really exciting and rich to me and really felt applicable and helpful throughout the process,
Yeah,
I think.
to know what I'm into.
Not airbrush
Right.
painters, other kinds
Oh
of
yeah,
painters.
not airbrush.
Although
but
airbrush painters too.
Yeah. No, but just I grew up around. My dad kind of made it a point to take us to a lot of like weird gallery shows, and growing up in New York, that was kind of my introduction to art. Was more through an abstract lens, I would say, but. Yeah, and just throughout our house, we had like a ton of art books, like Jacob Lawrence and obviously Basquiat. And he would be at a club and Basquiat would like be in the corner.
Wow. Oh, just that.
Oh yeah, like he's like, yeah, like I saw him like around, like what? Like that's like, okay, like that's crazy. So yeah, I guess that was my first introduction to art was through painters, and I kind of saw Jacob Lawrence's work, and I kind of wanted to like live in there. It was like the first time I was like, oh, I wish everyone looked like that, with like no faces and everyone's just like blobs of color. And
You mean like this?
Yeah.
So actually, there was an interesting question
Yeah.
that came in from a viewer. They said, can you say more about how the characters are constructed? And I would say this might be a good image to use to talk, well, or a different one.
No, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Lil Nas X for the New York Times in Los Angeles, 2020. This day, I'll start with how it's constructed, how I construct my subjects, the models, the celebrity. This day, there's a lot of ways that I do it. This day, I had him like mirror me, so he was kind of doing this this motion, and that's a way I'm like, oh, can you mirror me? And the person will like move their hand in ways so I can see. I'm very specific.
How are you holding a camera while you do that?
Well, it's around my neck, and it's not.
It's like a big camera, a little camera?
It's a-
Because
I have
actually,
a
that's
little-
another question
oh.
William asked. What kind of a camera are you using? Do you do a
I
lot
use
of
a
computer?
Nikon N80. It's the camera that my high school teacher gave me on a whim. He's like, my wife doesn't want this. And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, film camera, cool. And I still use it. It's very lightweight. The film rolls on its own. So I'm on the street out and about. There's people looking, especially on this day. There's a lot of people behind me yelling and screaming and things like that. But yeah, my camera, it's pretty lightweight. I don't have I'm not a very techie person. I just have my one camera, and I use 35 here, and I also do digital. This was a digital day, and yeah, that's the.
And do you do a lot of work like in post-production on your computer or?
When I first got into photography when I was younger, when I was 14, I was placed in a digital imaging course, and
14.
And it was a digital imaging course, which was like learning the basics of photography, like f-stop, aperture, shutter speed.
We get to just do a little brand reference right in the middle, just like that.
Just, so I learned all that, but then also there was Photoshop, and that was just like we restored like old photographs and stuff. So, and in that class, it was just so nice to just like take out like little imperfections or whatever in Photoshop and kind of change the photo into something else. So yeah, sometimes it's nice to change. I usually just change colors if I want, mostly. I elongate the photo sometimes.
So
Yeah,
you're
it's
not
pretty much
like Edward Weston, who said that whatever's in the negative needs to be rendered without.
No.
That's good.
I love that
We
process.
have Edward Weston. Now we need you.
Yeah.
He did it. It's fine.
I mean, yeah. But I love to change. I like to invite people into my world and like change some things and. Yeah.
Well, actually, speaking of inviting people into your world, maybe it's a good moment to segue into all of the voices that you invited into your world, which, and maybe you'll talk a little bit about how you signified this, because I don't know if you can tell at home, but there's a beautiful paper change in the middle right after the zine. Do you want to talk a little bit about the idea for this? And maybe Hannah's in here and she can talk a little bit about her experience in this piece.
I love this part, just because that before the page, this image of my little brother Cameron.
Hi,
who
Cameron.
The book is dedicated to. I was a very depressed teenager, but having younger siblings, they kind of take you out of it because they're so playful and they don't know that you're feeling a certain way and they're just playful. So this was like a moment when I was just kind of like, ugh. You know, and my brother like sprayed the hose and it made a rainbow and I was like, oh. So it was just like a moment of like, oh, in my, like a happy light moment in my, you know, my depression. And yeah, so this is such a, me and him love this photo. It's a staple in our family.
He's showing you how to keep your inner kid alive.
That's what they did, yeah. But I love how it, you know, goes with the beginning of me and how me talking to other people and about how do they keep their energy.
But how did you choose to approach these people? And then maybe Hannah can talk a little bit about what that.
I'm just curious. Well, first I just wanted to like talk to
Right. You just made a list of people. You're like, these are people I'd like to talk to.
like I just want to like be like, hi, what's up? Like I kind of want it because photography I work alone a lot, so it's, you know, I work alone. I do the clothes and the locations and find the people, and so it was nice to break out of that and just talk to people. I'm like, are you feeling the same thing I am? Or, you know, like talk to people who are in my field of work. And also just I feel like I learned a lot from everyone, for sure. I told a lot of people about what your parents.
Oh, that's so
yeah. But yeah, just talking to people that I'm inspired by and who I think it just, again, it helps me.
I couldn't believe Howardina Pinnell. I mean, you got some really legendary people you hadn't necessarily met before.
No, but the phone calls were great. And I mean, I was just really curious about, because when I first moved to New York and I kind of moved back to New York and started to take my work more seriously and create, Howardina's work was she was one of the artists that I first kind of came into. I just loved her work. And I got into a car accident that kind of changed my life and my course. And she also got into a car accident that changed her. I don't know. It was just, yeah, it was just wonderful, like talking to her, honestly.
And I just want to say, Phyllis Colombo just noted on the chat how much she said, thank you for including me in this delightful book. So I think you touched a lot of people also.
Phyllis's work, oh my gosh, that was another, like, for me, I was like, oh my gosh, So to talk to Phyllis was incredible, super inspiring, super brave, like, super intense work. So yeah, I love it. Yeah.
If Phyllis is watching, I'm
so
sorry. Directly to you.
Break the wall. Break the fourth wall.
It's wild because my senior thesis at Skidmore was an exhibition at the Tang Museum, and Phyllis was in the show. I'm not sure if she knows that, but it was called Africa Pop Studio. So anyways.
She said,
So small world.
She said you're too cool. I agree. All three of you. Goodness gracious. So are there, let's think, did you have any favorite interviews from anything you learned from who's kept their inner kid alive the best?
Honestly, a lot of favorites.
Do we have to cut things down? Like, how did we design, like, how did we go into this?
I think there were, I don't know.
I think I
feel like
showed
the
you
layout changed a few
Apartamento.
times.
I liked Apartamento magazine and how they do their. Did I show you that? I think I did.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, yeah.
And it was like just how they did their interviews and stuff. I think
Right.
that's what we talked about.
Yeah, but yeah, I like a lot of these interviews, if not all of them. I think I'm also a very big Howardina Pindell fan. And yeah, I also just think the format of this entire section is really interesting and
Yeah.
like is a unique and really generous gesture, like opening up an essay section, not just to be about your own work, but relating it to other people. Also, yeah, I feel like I've designed a lot of art books at this point, and people usually aren't formatting their text sections like that, or in such a generous kind of collaborative way.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting. Yeah, it felt like a cool kind of roundtable discussion.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, a lot of people at the end were like, oh, I feel like I just had like a therapy session or something, because this was like, oh, you're asking me questions like my childhood and like, whoa, yeah. So it was really nice. I like to get to the surface. I like to go, to ask the questions that are a bit more deeper.
And
yeah.
maybe we'll also continue with a little bit of a shout out to Leslie Martin, who I think is so important, had played such an important role with actually all three of these books. Maybe we'll start with you, Rush, and then move on through.
Yeah, Leslie has been kind of a major mentor, I think, in my career. I met her when we were designing the new Black Vanguard. She's taught me so much, I think, about production of a book, like bookmaking in general, curation, I don't know, even just like industry things in general.
Can you want to maybe think of one or two things in this book that Leslie might recognize as like is there?
I mean, one thing that immediately comes to my head is...
Or it can be about any of the books, actually, for the...
She gifted me the old set of Aperture Pantones. I have the old book. Like that's a major thing.
That is a major thing.
Those Pantones.
Because by the way, if you don't know, those are really expensive. So
they're very expensive. Yeah, they're like thousands.
Oh wow.
But yeah, those were used for this. I think about Leslie with probably all of my book projects. I think she's been an immense help and super generous.
Yeah, she is. I mean, Aperture and everyone here, but Leslie has been super supportive of my career for sure. I think she asked me to do a book, and I was like, oh, I'm not. I was nervous. I was like, no,
Right.
I don't think I'm ready.
right around the time of the new Black Vanguard, right?
Yeah, and I was like, no.
Which
no.
was 5 years ago. So
yeah. And I talked to her a lot, and I was like, I feel like a book is like an end. Like it means I can't shoot this way anymore or something, or I feel like it's too much of a ending. And we had a lot of conversations, and it took I think it was a couple more years of just back and forths. But yeah, she's like, no, it's not an ending. You're gonna have more books.
Well,
you don't just stop photography. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna stop.
I was speaking to somebody who is writing the Robert Frank biography, and he reminded me of the saying that to publish is not to finish. And I think,
Yeah.
the work keeps going, the thinking keeps going,
Right.
conversations keep going.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a fear, I think, that comes in your head.
But that's where somebody who really knows what they're doing can help you be grounded.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So shout out to Leslie.
Shout out to Leslie for sure. Real shout out. Do you know Leslie Martin?
I wish I did.
Okay. I bet you'll stop by the gallery soon. So that's great.
Cool.
So do you want to talk a little bit more? Do you have any other elements of your interview that you want to talk about other than your parents being proud and helping you? Either one of you can jump in.
About my interview, interview?
If there are any other moments from the text, or of course Nicole Acheampong's interview with you.
Oh yeah.
I also really love. Now Nicole was an assistant editor on the magazine, and has since also had a stellar career post Aperture, and this is, I think, her first time working on a book since she has been with us.
Oh,
what
really?
was that experience?
It was
like
great.
For you?
We met at a coffee shop like just to like meet up and chat. She's like around my age, I think. We're like around the same age, so it was cool to just like talk with someone that like is like you, I don't know,
a friend,
a peer or something. So it was really easy to chat. And yeah, I just talked about my life. I feel like my work is a reflection of my life and what I've been through. So yeah, that's basically what we did. And yeah.
Had you ever done such an in-depth interview before?
Online, okay. I would say. Yeah, online, I think, but not like over the phone, no. So that was really nice. I talked a lot, yeah. I did, yeah. Because I was like,
it doesn't feel it. Well, anyway.
Yeah, it was like, oh yeah, I did this. And because, you know, in a conversation, you're like, you ask them a question and then so it was like, it felt like I was talking a lot, but yeah. It was
That's
great.
what an interview is. But I think actually that's a piece of why, for all the generosity of the questions and your interviews with other people in the heart of the book, this is your first book. It's a very big moment. And maybe, Hannah, you'll speak a little bit to, like, from your impression, what does that mean? You've been supporting Arielle's work in your gallery for years now. But what is this book? How would you think of this book for Arielle or first books in general?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that in the same, like, two of the biggest moments in an artist's career is their first book or any book, and then also being in a museum collection. And I feel like for both things, for both situations, it's really the importance of permanence. Because as we know, history is written, but it's also seen. And so the fact that this will continue to exist, that other artists or art lovers can study this in 100 years, I think is a huge deal. And also just knowing that something permanent is out there for an artist is everything, I think.
Yeah. I say my photos are like my babies. Like, I feel like I'm like, I don't know, like it's my legacy or something. Like, I'm creating something that people can, before I would say like Google me and maybe find something, you know, like if you're on Tumblr or like any, like years from now, I don't know, people can kind of just find me. Like, I've found so many artists like of the past. So, but now it's like physical, it's very different.
And even in an interview, I would imagine it's like, it's one thing if you do an interview that's online or something, but this is there for future generations, art historians to use as a resource even.
It also does, in the same way as being acquired by a museum, it really validates your work. Not that you need that, but in our industry, you actually kind of do. And so that's another huge part of it.
Yeah, I'm trying, this book is from like 21-year-old Arielle to now like 30-year-old Arielle. So I feel like I've gone from, you know, taking pictures of my siblings to my friends to, you know, working in the industry for years now, and I'm still learning about the business. It's hard as an artist, I think a lot of artists can attest to this, but to move your way through all of that, it's kind of, it makes me feel, it's icky a little bit to think of myself as a business or something like that, but I know there's people like you who that's your strong suit. But I feel like you know a lot about the business.
Oh, thank you. It seems that way. No, I mean, the whole time you were talking, I was like, me too. Like, seriously, like it's so. And actually, recently I was talking to some women that I really look up to in the art industry, and I told them that, and they were like, oh no, us too. And they've been in the art industry for 20 years.
Museums are quite, speaking from somebody who is old and who did work at a museum for a long time, I think the way museums work can feel opaque in the same way that the publishing industry feels opaque. And I think it's a little bit of what we're trying to do here is to say, you know, you're holding this in your hands. Did you ever really think about like who makes the decision about what color head and tail band and how the edges of the pages are treated and these things? And I think that kind of explication, it doesn't matter actually if you're old or young.
Exactly.
It's helpful. You know, and how do you think of the constraints and make them opportunities? And that happens in both of these industries. But I think it's really reassuring for other young artists who are listening to you to understand this. So one of the questions was like, what do you hope people take away from this book? Like, do you have something, you know, is there something that you want people
I mean, yeah, yeah, photography is, it's such a, it's given me so much. It's so important to me. It's so important to me. It's given me so much, more so just about my, like who I am as a person, my self-worth. Again, being such a depressed and still, you know, dealing with depression from time to time, photography has been just sort of a place that I can go to, I don't know, remind myself that, you know, there's love everywhere all the time. That sounds very hippie, but
no, I kind of love it because
that's how I feel.
sometimes photography gets this reputation for being the thing that makes people feel isolated, you know, when it's on social media. So how do you, how would you offer that as like a bridge for somebody who's looking at it and maybe not seeing that love or that point of connection?
Yeah, I feel like I take pictures every day. I put the photos of the zine of my day-to-day stuff because it's just a reminder that I'm constantly like searching for the beauty around me. It's the greatest gift. Photography is the greatest gift whoever gave it to me, I've ever received. It keeps me present, and I just hope whoever's watching, or artists or whoever, you know, find something similar to photography or whatever that keeps you as present and in the moment as photography does for me. So whether that's like doing yoga or cleaning your bath, I don't know, whatever.
Like where you're cleaning your bathroom, but yoga maybe.
I feel like cleaning I can get like very like here, like you're in the moment. I don't know, whatever it is, like small things, whatever. Just it's nice to just have time to be present and to be grateful for so much all the time. I feel like it's brought me so much gratitude for so much. And I feel like as a depressed teen growing up, nothing was beautiful, everything was gray, and oh God, nothing was good. So photography really just keeps me very grounded, and just very grateful for like air and water and grass and trees and flowers, and like just it helps me. I don't know, I say like my purpose is to, people always talk about like their purpose, like, oh, my purpose is to be a doctor or whatever, but I feel like photography has taught me that my purpose is to just fall in love with as much as I can, and photography is just a tool that helps me like remember it all. So
That's so
beautiful. That's another one if I were right. Well, we'll play that one again. But another question that came in was about thinking about you. I mean, and to me, the vision of you taking pictures of Lil Nas X by yourself. So you don't have a makeup artist. We
had that day. We did.
Oh, okay.
Celebrities, come on.
Okay, I mean, I figured so, but you said you were just by yourself.
Oh, no, I wasn't by myself. I was not by myself.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
So sorry, that was then my mistaken impression.
This I was by myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you were saying you only had a camera.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just had I didn't have like lights and stuff like that. Yeah.
And is that, so maybe talk a little bit about the range of your approaches. So for some people, you're just carrying your camera and you're walking up. There are no lights. There's no costume designer or whatever they call them on fashion sets.
Costume designer?
Stylist, sorry.
Makeup, assistants, the makeup artist assistant, the stylist assistant, the producers, my
So what's the
assistants.
biggest crew you've ever worked with? Like watching you make a photograph who's not a stranger,
like
walking by
30
the street.
people, 40 people.
Working.
Yeah, I would say. But that was a big...
Is that in the book?
I guess the New York Times would be the ones that are, that would be like the most people behind me watching me, which again, I met Daquan at a thrift store and we're like, let's shoot. Like, it's very different. It was like, I had to learn. It's weird because you feel like you're putting on a show or something and people are staring at you. So that's it's a learning curve for me for sure, working with a lot of people. But yeah, I think when I work alone, it's only me that I have to communicate with, and I'm just like in my brain, just getting to know whoever's in front of me and everything, but my ideas are just mine. But working on like bigger sets, there's so many voices that, make the photo what it is. But working with the Times, the photo that they're very photography people. So they're like they know how to just to let the photographer breathe. I think that's important. And the Times really did that for me. They're like, yeah, just go do your thing.
So when you're shooting
that's
this,
a dream job. This was like a dream gig. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know the New York Times is creating opportunities that are dream jobs.
That was a dream. It was just like email, like, hey, would you like to shoot these? And I'm like, okay, yeah, oh my gosh. But yeah, that.
Did they see your work in the new Black Vanguard? Do you know how they?
Instagram. Maybe?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't ask that. Maybe I should. Hey, how did you find my work? I don't know. But
it's the text section of your next book.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it's. I think I will always shoot by myself and just go off and do things alone. I think that's important, and not for like a client or whatever. Just creating work that's just because you want to and you're not getting paid for it will always be forever. That's like the most important thing, I think, for me, is to just continue to make work that I don't even have to show. I don't have to show anyone. It's just like because I enjoy the process of creating a photo. Like the end result is a lot of time may not be what I thought it was, but that's like the greatest part. Yeah.
Do you ever give your artists advice, sort of as they're evolving, young artists in their careers? How do you approach hearing them talk about their process? And
yeah, for sure. That's actually one of my favorite parts of my job, is being super involved in my artist process as much as they would like me to be, because obviously every artist is different and it's very much a case by case basis. But some of my artists love me coming to the studios, love me choosing, which colors, love me telling them what direction they should go in. And so some of the shows are really kind of made in collaboration almost. And I don't even want to say collaboration because that makes it sound like it's 50-50. It's not at all. Right. I am like 2%. But that 2% is so exciting to me.
Yeah.
It's like such a privilege.
Yeah, I think, as a recovering curator, some artists want to hear it and then other artists don't. And that's okay.
Yeah,
exactly. Do you
want to hear it or you don't?
Yeah, no, I don't
hear it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I thought maybe before we end, it might be nice to ask ourselves how we keep our inner kid alive. I'll go first, just to give you all a chance to kind of think through. To me, I keep my inner kid alive by the work that I do. The young people that I work with, the artists that I work with. The number of things, my own children as well. Actually, they just make me feel old, but
got it.
That's their job. But really, actually, sometimes it feels old at work too. But I think it is, it's an amazing thing when you have an insight into the motivations and careers and things of young people, of like, what is it that makes you wake up in the morning? And so for me, that is a very sustaining force. And I bumble along with a guitar just to keep myself humble.
I didn't know that. I
have a little parlor. Well, it's good to just be bad at really bad at something without apology, and that
100%. Yeah,
that helps too.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
Okay, so what about you? How do you keep your inner kid alive?
I bumble also on a guitar and a bass guitar.
I bet you're a better bumbler than I am. Just gonna guess.
I just started bumbling in the past maybe 2 years, but yeah, that's a really fun obsession. Projects like this make me feel really honestly youthful, and like I'm not working. And I think working contexts like these I really value.
Yeah.
And really casual collaborations like this I really value also. And also I teach high schoolers, and I think I'm kind of siphoning I'm using them as a fountain of youth, I think, to become a little younger or something, or stay youthful.
Not too much younger. You're already pretty
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, like being a student or like in that realm.
Yeah.
It's nice for sure.
Yeah, teaching's also just an excuse to be a student again in a different context or something.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think we both really like that that quality of being a student.
Yeah, I took a photography class. I recently did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think and I was surrounded by like people who photography is like a hobby, and I feel like sometimes as artists or whatever, we can put a lot of pressure on our ideas or our work, and it's nice to just like step back and learn something new maybe, and be around people who are like, yeah, I like this camera, and like see them like figuring it out and working, being around people who are new to it too. It's fun. It's just nice. It gives you, I don't know, what's the word? Revamps.
Fresh air.
Fresh air of like, oh yes, like because I have a formula, you know, for my shoots and stuff. So being a student is forever a thing for me, for sure.
You can just prioritize play and less of the formula for your practice or whatever. Yeah.
Your siblings also help you keep your inner kid alive.
Yeah, for sure. They're teenagers now, so it's I'm learning different things from them, but still I just admire them so much. Yeah. So.
What about you, Hannah?
I think in the book I said color.
You did. You did. Yeah.
Which is funny because not today with that.
Oh yeah,
it's fine.
Brown is a color too.
But I also would say tapping into the things I loved as a child. So like arts and crafts was my favorite thing to do when I was little. And so when I see those little craft sets, I just have to buy it. And I just have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun. It's also really meditative. But then also, being around young people. I have 32 little cousins in Toronto alone. More in my father village in Mali, but in Toronto, and from age like 6 months to 21. And so playing with them and like being literally on the carpet, rolling around with them. But then also, you know, high school students who come by the gallery, or I have these mentees, so I call them my little siblings, who, keep me really young.
I love it.
Nice. Yeah.
So before we end, there are two things I wanted to mention. One is a shout out to you, and for anyone tuning in from Los Angeles, do you want to share where they have a chance to see your work at no less than the...
LACMA. I have a show. I'm in a show at LACMA.
Who is the curator and what's the name of the show?
It's Black Diaspora.
And it opened?
It opens December 15th.
Okay, so that's 5 days away.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah. It's I don't know how to feel about it.
All right.
Well, I do. It's incredible, but it's just like I can't believe it's happening.
Well, if anyone's lucky enough to go to LA, check out the show. I want to thank each of you for being here on the PhotoBook Club with us. We thanked FotoFocus in the beginning because they've been such amazing sponsors, but I also want to spend a minute thanking The Joy of Giving Something, because this is actually the third book in the Aperture Joy of Giving Something Award, which is a really big deal. And it was the Joy of Giving Something gave us this to help support the production of the book, which is what helps make it so special and lovely, and also helps support you in really thinking about how do you identify people who are really shifting the conversation through photography. And I think your work really does that. I want to thank everybody here, my colleagues Alex and Brianna, Clark, and the Candle production team. This is the end of our third season. It's kind of like a TV show, so I think at first season I was like, that doesn't apply, but it kind of does. And the last thing I wanted to mention is something we've never done before, but we're going to give a shameless plug to our Aperture holiday sale, because what you may not realize is that when you buy this book, well, this one you'll get a discount, which is great, but actually you'll get a discount through our holiday club sale, our holiday sale too. And it's a really nice way of supporting the work that we do. You know, we're a nonprofit, 72 years old, and we need the help of everyone to help us bring forward these amazing voices and achievements. So thank you. Happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you in 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazz hands.
Yes.
I once had a late night flight after an Aperture PhotoBook Club, that 11:30 flight is actually the best because you can fall asleep.
Yeah, and then you're there at 11, you have a full day.
Then my next trip to Europe, I have a 4:40 flight, and I was like, so that's a disaster.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm basically
no.
going to be up the whole flight and